Well, everyone, welcome to the Shorter Artist Hour, where I talk to my superbly talented friends that I think the world needs to know more about. And we may not talk for a full hour, but that's okay because it's a Shorter Artist Hour because I'm Susan Shorter. And today I'm super excited to introduce you all to a good friend of mine, an award-winning wildlife and fantasy illustrator, and a wonderful human being, and somebody patient enough to do take two on this interview with me. Here we have Shawn Elizabeth Russell. Yay!
Oh, yay! Thanks for having me.
Thanks for
I mean,
coming
my hair's
back
so
after
pretty.
yesterday failed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's so frustrating to have stuff go wrong like that. I mean, I mentioned earlier, like that's happened during like the most interesting part of a drawing when I record sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, there's no point to to all the recordings up till then.
Just so
But
everybody
it's
knows,
okay.
her and I sat down yesterday and did this, and I thought it turned out great. I thought it was a fun interview, all these cute little stories and everything. And but that's all right. We're gonna do a totally fresh one today.
Hmm.
So, yeah, how are you doing? Are you working on anything fresh now?
I'm doing good. I am working on a new piece. My cat stepped on it.
Oh
Sorry,
no.
my cat sometimes collabs with me on my angled desk. She stepped on it. It's not bad. Just like a little it's not really. I'm just gonna erase it real quick 'cause
Okay. Is it like
sometimes she'll step on the graphite and then she'll step on a white spot and then it spreads. But so there's like a little cat
what? You just have
fingerprint.
nature in your art now. Is the
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. But yeah, it's like a kind of a new thing. I don't know if you can see it, if
Yeah.
it's too light in the sketch area, but like it's a an African elephant with these like baobab trees and dragon blood trees and acacia trees, just like African savanna trees.
That's so
Um,
cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And then I'm also working on the Year of the Rat and then a Year of the Wood Snake piece. Um, but they're both like just a head and like a floating animal head within another light sketch. So I could show them if you want, but they
For sure.
aren't
I
as
am curious.
exciting.
So whenever you do pieces like that elephant for a client, can you then sell prints
Hmm.
and stuff, or do they just like own that image at that point?
Usually I request to be able to sell prints of it. Like if it's a an idea that I'm really into, like there's one piece that I did earlier, or no, last year. It was for a wedding invitation. I don't think I have it on me, but it was of these two foxes that are almost like in a circle pursuing each other, and they have florals in their
Mm.
fur. They chose the flowers. It was orchids and myrtle and tulips and lilacs. And it was for their wedding invite, and they kept the original. Um, but I got to do prints of it, so I can do what I want with the artwork. They just keep the memory of the original and everything.
That's good because
Yeah.
yeah, that elephant one, especially like that fits into your style and everything. And I totally want to get into talking about your art and stuff, but I know so many people. Like whenever I said I was talking to you, was it Phil or Jacob was like, "Oh my God, ask her about Katsucon." So
Oh yeah.
were you close to where that eruption happened? If anybody didn't see the video, like
Mhm.
some pipe burst or something, yeah, you know better. I wasn't there. I just saw the social media stuff.
Yeah, it was within sight of my booth. So I was maybe like 40 or 50 feet away from it. I saw it as it started to happen. It just suddenly went and just like started gushing out. And I was mid-sail at the time, so I was just like looking at it and answering questions and looking at it and trying not to raise the alarm. And then we got hit with like a sewage smell.
Oh, it might be.
Apparently it wasn't sewage water,
Oh, that's good.
but it was like gray water, but it definitely smelled poopy.
Oh God.
So um yeah, it was interesting. So once that smell started radiating, Artist Alley staff was like, if you're an attendee, let's get out of here. And they closed us down 2 hours early. And then artists, like we were moving our tables away if we were close to it. I was
Anybody right
along the
under?
wall. There was, I think, several people that were like right around that area. I'm pretty sure that there was somebody whose like soft apparel that was open
Oh no.
got just doused with it. And I heard another artist had offered help to what they said was another artist who was all wet and like trying to grab her stuff and like run away.
Oh my,
And they were like in shock. So, um,
you just can't
I
imagine
would,
something like that happening.
yeah, I would rather that just be not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't heard directly, I don't think, from the person who was hit. I think actually they were on the news. Their mother was on the news.
Oh, wow.
I think ABC ran a thing about it. But yeah,
Well, and I just
it
wonder
was a
about,
bummer.
especially like, yeah, beginner artists and all, like you put like all your money and your time and energy into like, well, I'll make it back at this convention. And I just can't
Hmm.
imagine losing like all my inventory that I brought. Like if that just rained down hell on my table. I would that
Yeah,
it would be the building or the convention that would have to make amends, reimburse them or
I would say the building, because like, that's something that's outside of the control of convention staff, and like
yeah.
convention staff just kind of organizes the event. And they don't own the Gaylord building out in DC. So like that was just the rented space, which is
Yeah.
a really nice space, despite what happened. But apparently there was MagFest in the same building and there were drippings reported. And last year at Katsucon, somebody complained about dripping also. So it kind of seems like
How awful.
maybe this is an ongoing problem that just hasn't been addressed when it should have been.
Did it affect
So
foot traffic the rest of the convention?
Um, not not really. I mean, the night of we were all worried because we didn't hear anything until the next day. So I was like going through worst case scenarios. Oh, we're shut down for the entire weekend and I only made a day of sales and that's like, you know, I broke even and I think I made a little profit beyond like expenses of booth fee, flight, lodging, food for the trip and, inventory that I prepared. But I was stressed because it was my husband's birthday that weekend and it was Valentine's with
Oh,
my children that I was missing too. So I was like, man, this is totally a waste of time. But thankfully, we came in the next day and we opened just like 2 hours later. And then we stayed open 2 hours later. So all we lost was like 2 hours maybe from the first night. And people were coming and it was busy. I think people
dang.
saw the videos that were online and they were like, well, we want to support the artists because we love the artists at this show. And I mean, personally, I just go to artist alleys when I just attend a show.
Same.
Um, so it ended up being okay. It
Wow.
ended up being all right.
That is absolutely incredible. And
Mhm.
did it still stink the next few days?
It did. So when I walked in at like 8 a.m. the next day because that's when they said they were going to let staff in. And I was like, I should come early just in case we have to move our tables or whatever. Um, and it did smell like a recently cleaned bathroom, like up until open time,
Yeah.
like a recently cleaned convention bathroom. So
Ah, a
not
well one.
necessarily like a fresh, clean bathroom at home.
Hmm.
Um, but it was not nearly as bad as it was when it was happening. And in that area of the spill, it um, smelled a little worse than everywhere else. But they did a pretty good job of clearing the air. Uh,
Literally. All
yeah. Yeah.
right. Well, I
Hmm.
guess I should back up since this is an art talk and like find out a little bit about your upbringing, early influences. Have you always been like one of those kids just drawing away in tablets and stuff, or what was
I
tough?
think so. I think so. Yeah. I've been drawing since forever and I always enjoyed it. I loved kind of getting lost in the details and like just zoning out into a drawing, or especially on animals that I really like.
Yeah, I was wondering what you were drawing as a kid.
Oh yeah, always animals and like monsters. Like I remember in high school, I would draw like really scary monsters, and like middle school, and my parents were worried about it.
Get your
Um,
teachers concerned and
yeah, yeah. I drew a lot of werewolves too. And then anime, like I drew a lot of Pokemon stuff. Maybe, maybe I'll show you one of my old ones because I have some of them scanned just for memory purposes.
just as
Uh,
long as you don't show me the werewolf ones because I have a bit of a phobia with them.
oh, you do?
I do, but I
Okay.
love them. I think they're cool, but I'm also they scare the hell out of me because my mom, I was like her little buddy. So she showed me
Mm,
The Howling when I was 4, and
hmm
that yeah, there's the start of the terror. So, and I had a
hmm
friend of mine that this is totally random. I went to a Halloween costume party thing, and he was dressed up as a full-size realistic one with like the bent legs and everything. And
Oh,
it was back and forth with because like I love to make costumes, so I was fascinated with it, but also my gut was like, run away. So anyway, yes, I would love to see some of those early drawings. That would be awesome.
yeah, yeah, there's a complete lack of any skill whatsoever, but I mean, they were my Pokemon team. Like I was an only child, so I the Game Boy Color was my babysitter, and so was drawing, and then like horse and pony books. I
Oh yeah, me too.
read a lot of those when I was younger.
And I remember you mentioning that you love Disney too. Like I drew all
hmm
the Disney stuff. I wanted to be absorbed. I
Oh
remember
yeah.
I was little when Beauty and the Beast came out, and so that
Mm.
was just fascinating to me. I was painting that stuff on my walls and everything. So,
hmm Oh yeah, absolutely. Disney was great. Lion King was like the movie that like captured my heart. I would watch that all the time. I
oh,
think my dad said that I watched the VHS so much that it broke and he had to buy me another one.
oh,
Um,
so sweet.
but yeah, like I feel like I have that movie memorized still.
I
But
played the Super Nintendo game over and over and over. Did you play that,
mm,
the Lion King game? Sorry.
I didn't know there was a Lion King game. What was it on Game Boy or was it on like
Super
Super
Nintendo.
Nintendo?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't have that system. I my
You'll have to
first like
come over. I
console
have it.
was GameCube. You have it?
Because I only like to play like the old games and like newer Mario
Mm-hmm.
Brothers stuff. It has to be cartoony and silly. That's what I get into. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you'll have to come over and play it.
Oh
It's
yeah.
fun. It's just,
I wanna check that out. I bet it has like awesome Donkey Kong style music.
yeah. And it's like side scrolling and you get to do a lot of the things that they did and it follows the movie. It's so fun.
That's amazing. Is the moment where Scar is like, "Long live the king"? Is that like an interactive moment
Sadly,
or
I
like
haven't gotten to that
horrible
point yet.
memories?
As
Oh.
far as I have gotten as right where Papa kicks it, well, it's like because like right before was it the antelope? You're like running down in
Mm-hmm.
that big holler or whatever. I'm so Hoosier down
Mm-hmm.
the holler, and you're running from the antelope, and you have to dodge them or they trample you. So it's just
Okay, yeah,
that,
yeah.
and like that's one that I would die on a lot, and then there was one other, but anywho, yeah,
Mm.
can't believe how
That
much I.
was such that's such a rough thing to have in a kids show. Like it did not faze me at all whatsoever when I was a kid. But when I started watching it with my girls, I'm like,
Mm.
oh my gosh, this is gonna be way too scary. Can they imagine? Like, what if they thought that we're gonna die? And they're like totally fine. And I'm like trying to not cry. And
Yes.
it's like, man, I'm such a sensitive baby now that I'm a mom.
Oh, well, and Disney movies just did that too. There was Bambi and oh, The Fox and
hmm
the Hound. I still can't think about that without crying. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then Never Ending
That's so
Story.
sad.
Everybody knows that's my favorite movie, but the horse thing, no,
hmm
not fun.
hmm hmm
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
well, I guess
man.
I should probably direct us back to art stuff.
Mm.
Um,
Having too much fun.
I know. Well, I always like these side conversations and interviews anyway. It's a blast.
hmm
Um, your artwork. You're known for like super detailed drawings of animals and fungi like melded together. Is
Mm.
there a reason for those choices that you make other than just they look good together aesthetically, or
Yeah, so I get that question a lot at conventions, and most people are not prepared for how nerdy the answer is. So I like to let's see, I started it as pairing predators with fungi or predators with flora and fauna uh, as a way to kind of pair this, you know, a really strong creature that kills and takes in order to nourish itself. It's like a destroyer. And then we're rooting something that is like immobile, non-sentient, like very bottom of the food chain, very like weak,
yeah.
that relies on other organisms to help propagate itself. So, like for plants, their reproductive strategy is flowers, where they attract pollinators, they offer up energy-rich nectar, and they just wait, feed these other bees, birds, small mammals, in exchange for their pollen being distributed. And same with mushrooms, which when you touch a mushroom cap, they'll just release spores all over the place. And that's how their genetic material gets redistributed. So I love the idea of rooting like a colony of mushrooms or like the blossom of a flower. Um, like there's one piece where a wolf is jumping into a chrysanthemum blossom, and it's unclear whether the wolf is being a pollinator or like chrysanthemum petals are almost like claw-like sometimes. Like they're beautiful, but they can be sinister, like really close up. Um, Kind of like an ambiguous, is this wolf being trapped by this flower or is it, pollinating? And let's see, with the one that's most known or like the most popular print seller is like the fox with the mushrooms on its back.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
Yes.
yeah, so it's in an active hunting pose. It's like doing the jump and then slamming its paws into the ground to flush out prey. And so it's like a living fox, yet it's colonizing, it's got this colony of mushrooms on its back. So they're both flourishing. And also something fun about the mushroom fox relationship is that foxes eat mushrooms and their prey regularly eat mushrooms. And also, mushrooms are what kind of breaks down everything at the end of a life cycle. So they'll turn a dead fox in real life into fertilizer. It'll break it down into substrate that will nourish the next generation from the bottom up. So it's kind of like this really complicated mouthful that like I can't say in a sentence very clearly, or maybe I just need to spend a day thinking about it.
It's very, I just love how the whole cycle there is implied. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that was kind of inspired by um like just needing a way to process how people groups have, a really uncomfortable power dynamic sometimes. There are groups that are oppressors and there are groups that are oppressed, and like instead of us coming together symbiotically in a lot of, I mean, there are situations definitely where it's like a symbiotic relationship, but you know, I want them all to be that way and not to be, you know, predatory and like taking without exchanging anything of, equal value, if
Yeah.
that makes any sense.
It
Yeah.
does. And art is just such a beautiful tool for, just trying to, well, not just therapy, but just having a voice about the world in a way that's not typically done. And I love to see the way each individual artist, you know, shares what they care about through their art in subtle ways. So I think
Hmm.
beautiful. And thinking about how you were talking about, the fungi and animals and things feeding off of each other and stuff like that, it made my brain go to that story because I love science and nature too. I'm obsessed.
Hmm.
Like if I couldn't do something with art, I wanted to do something with animals. But
Hmm.
I can't think of the name of it, but that fungi it's like the zombie one that will take
Yeah,
over the
the zombie ant fungus.
Yeah. Do you think
Yeah,
you ever do something with that? Because that's kind of combining, it's got the host
that
and
was a big inspiration. I never drew that one specifically because it's not as pretty. Uh, that like cordyceps is not as elegant, I guess. And I also don't want it to just be about like taking control of another organism and like causing them to go into the middle of the colony and like explode themselves with spores that infects everybody else.
but
Because
that
it's
does
actually
in
it's so
humanity.
sinister.
Yeah, that is some dark shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I used kind of just like pretty generic kind of white cap type mushrooms in mine. I want to explore more specific mushrooms going forward. Like there's one that I have a tiger salamander that's colonized by amanita mushrooms, which are, the ones I think that people take for hallucinogenic properties.
Okay.
But because they cause hallucinations because they are toxic, like they have toxins in them, and then so do tiger salamanders. They secrete toxins through their skin. So I thought it was fun to pair those.
Could be. I only know about the poison dart frog, but see, you're doing your research. I'm very proud of you.
I just like animals a lot.
Yeah, and they're just the best to draw. Well, and speaking of
Hmm.
animals and your art, your Chinese zodiac is some of my favorite pieces
Mm.
that you've done. Especially the snake is always one that I go back to. Was that something that you're working on for a client, or is that some personal work? Where did that come from?
It's kind of a mix. It started when I was asked to make a piece for Everyday Original. I think it was maybe my first one. But it was during Lunar New Year back in like 2020 when it was Year of the Bull. So that was the first one. And then I did one each year since then. Although the snake, I think, well, that was not published or released or whatever earlier, but that one came first. And I was like, wow, this would be a cool Year of the Snake piece, but it's not Year of the Snake. So I did the bull. But yeah, that one, it's personal. And then I have a friend who's claimed all of the originals.
Wow.
Um, I just have to finish them because they were like, take your time and do like client work and work stuff. Um, because that's when things were kind of ramping up a little bit, like right after COVID. Since all of that extra time kind of made me buckle down a little bit, be
Yeah.
like, I've got to figure something out because normal work stuff wasn't working as well. Let's see. But yeah, that since I'm half Chinese, it was kind of a nice way to reconnect with that part of myself when I had just moved to uh, Indiana, where there wasn't nearly as much like Asian people that I would see like in Chicago,
Sure.
where we had we had Mitsuwa, which is like a Japanese marketplace that is giant and catered to a whole bunch of Asian um, communities nearby. And during lockdown, it was just like, man, I want to do something comforting.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I
Why
dropped
did
back
you
into
guys move
that.
to Indiana? I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, you're fine. We moved because Chicago was really expensive, and since neither of us actually needed to be there, um, we decided to move closer to grandparents, since at the time our kids were like a year old and 3 years old. So I needed help.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Family time's so important then too for everybody when the kids are that
Hmm.
age. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you were getting going and decided, yeah, when did you decide I'm gonna be an artist? This is my,
Mm.
it's like what made this happen? Because you seem to be very successful at it. So how did this transition happen from that little kid drawing Pokemon?
So I went to art school, but it was the wrong kind of art school. It was the kind where everything should be avant-garde and like either really offensive or like so highbrow that like a lay person wouldn't be able to connect with it very well.
Yeah.
Um, so that actually made me stop drawing for a while. And I worked at GameStop for a while. And then I had my first kid, and that like after maybe they were 6 months old, I decided to make art again. And, with the limited free time of being a new mom, it's like, okay, well, if I'm gonna do art, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be for real artist.
Yeah.
And that turned into me like doing a couple pieces, but like the main one that I feel like it was like my postpartum depression piece. It's called Release, and it shows these three moray eels that are kind of intertwined and being released from this tiny little figure at the bottom that represents me. Most people don't actually notice it at first until I point it out, and I'm like, this is me, and this is postpartum depression, and like
Wow.
trying to find your identity again after being a new mom and all the stuff that like nobody prepares you for
Oh,
um, when you become a mom. So that was like a really cool piece because that was the first one that I submitted to Infected by Art. And that year it was published and it got, I think, third place in the monochrome category, which was like, what? Like,
you
I can be real, I can be artist.
did.
And that kind of set everything off because it was, yeah, I don't know, it was nuts. Because I think I went to a workshop during that time and I met Carla Ortiz and she was like, yeah, you should apply to things. You should send your work out there. It looks great. I'm like, oh, really? And I didn't really believe her, but I sent the submission in and it was like, wow, it did pan out. It worked. So it was really cool.
Whenever we were chatting for a little bit yesterday and you told me about that drawing, I didn't realize you said the title is Release. And that just,
Mm.
I have also done a drawing and it's entitled Release. And I'm
Oh,
kind of
really?
doing it now, but yeah, it's very much about, yeah, letting go of past demons. But with me, I'm using
Mm.
flamingos because that's their spiritual meaning is a release, an emotional release, letting things go. That's
Oh,
what they symbolize. And so it's just kind of her with her hair, and then the flamingos are all around her. And then you see like tear tracks, but it's just about letting go of all of that. And there's energy coming out of her third eye thing. And so that's just wild that we've
oh,
done a piece about releasing that out of us.
that's awesome. You have to show me.
Yeah,
You have to
I'll
show
send it
me.
to you. It's still, it
Yes.
was like I put the pencils out a while ago, but I've been working on the coloring in between projects. And so, yeah,
Ah.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh man, that's so cool.
Oh,
I'm glad we're doing a take two because I feel like I'm getting more information about you, which I like too.
yeah, I love, I'm getting so much more out of all of this. So maybe all of them I should start doing two versions. That would be exhausting.
It
So,
would
but
be exhausting.
this worked out for us. Oh, I had a
Mhm.
few things I wanted to ask you about. One thing that I think you do so well is that you take an image that you've created and you found fantastic ways of monetizing that. You sell it as like regular prints, you sell the original, you've got your embellished prints, you've got embellished canvases and all of that. So there's all these
Mm.
price points, which is very smart. We learned that's the way to make some money. But
Hmm.
how do you decide? Do you decide before you release the piece that you're going to have all of this ready for the big release, or do you kind of like see how something
Mm.
is received and then start investing money into making all of those things?
Usually, I guess I wait and see because you can never tell. And I didn't like at first, I kind of started with just prints, which are like the easiest thing to do and the least scary thing to do. And then I saw friends making like hardcover journals and embellished prints and other products like tote bags and pencil cases and stuff. I'm like, well, let me think about which ones people would be most likely to buy. And that was kind of based on sales data from previous shows or like what people would pick up online if they did. So I kind of just started with like the most popular designs, I guess. There is Mm, I don't have it. I got some new journals last week
Oh, cool.
with like cool covers. Like there's one with the mushroom and the fox. There's one with oh, this is an older piece, the chrysanthemum with the Amur leopard,
That's
which is like
beautiful.
another almost sinister one.
Yeah.
Um, like is it being eaten by the flower or is it pollinating and like making a weird face? Um,
How do you choose
yeah.
to find the companies that to make this, to make your merch?
Mm.
Know that you're
I
going to get
you
quality and
yeah, I usually go by word of mouth or like I'll ask an artist that I'm seeing doing it really well and I'll buy that product and be like, "Hey, are you comfortable with sharing your like manufacturer info or stuff like that?" And sometimes they'll be like, I don't know who it is. It was a group order, which is like the case for my journals. I have no idea who makes our journals, but I just, when my friend is like, we're doing a group order, I'm like, I'm in. And, she handles the money and the communication and the file transfer and everything. Um, and then sometimes I'll find a place on my own, like for my enamel pins. I go through Galaxy Design Squad and I got word of mouth recommendations from other artists at shows. Um, I do have new woven blankets now, and I know friends who did that, and I took down their info. And then I was actually approached by Fiber Art, like a one of the family owners at Lightbox last year. So they gave me some samples that I've been happy with. Um,
I know those
let's
can be
see.
expensive to make. I mean,
Mm,
I just find it intimidating to get into it. Have you found doing like that kind of merch beneficial?
I think so. I think having a a range and like a diversity of products
Yeah.
is really helpful. I should have done the interview at the gallery, but the gallery's not pretty right now. Um, um, but like having it's kind of like if you walk into a store and there's like one table with a few things on it,
Mhm.
you might just walk right back out and be like, there's not much here to look at. But if there's like a bunch of different products that like would appeal to different people who need different items,
Yeah.
like in a gift shop or something, or like a bookstore, like lots of different subjects versus like we only sell textbook manuscripts.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I feel like there's this subconscious thing where we have more faith in buying something there. Um,
Good
at
point.
least that's kind of my gut interpretation of why things might go well at a show. I don't know.
No, I
I
think
feel
that's
like it just,
valid. And
yeah,
it
like I
makes it look
think
like you are established.
yeah, like you look like you're a real business and not just like I'm selling unsleeved postcard drawings or whatnot. Like you're not just starting out and like what you're about to purchase has a tangible value, I suppose.
Yeah.
And whether or not that makes a legitimate feeling, like I feel like even art that's not presented well is still can still be really good and really valuable. Because there are artists I've come across in artist alleys where like they don't even have their original sleeved, but like it's absolutely gorgeous art. They just don't care about the presentation, and that's okay.
But now you make me feel like I need to get to work with getting some like different types of merch. I need to
Mm,
diversify a little bit. I know you
yeah.
said the shirts too. I love the ones that the long sleeve with down sleeves and all
Oh,
that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So I have one from last year.
Yes,
It's
that
my Year of the Snake one. Last year I ran the Year of the Rabbit tea, and then I also did this one because it was the most requested, and I was afraid that people wouldn't want to just have rabbit t-shirts. Um, so I did like a dual launch, and then this past year I did find the dragon tea
Oh, cool.
hiding behind. So I did a Year of the Dragon design.
Very
This is
cool.
the T design, and then the dragon design is like basically this um,
Oh, that's
on
rad.
on a sweater. Sorry about the glare
No, no, you're good.
right
That's
in front of a window.
yeah,
But
I've
like
got this
that's
giant light.
yeah. But that's kind of like a nice halo around you.
Oh, thank
It
you.
works really nicely. It's
Alec.
very pretty. Yes.
You don't have any more of those snake shirts? Is that what you were telling me?
I don't, but I am planning on doing another design with the snake. Since this year is Year of the Snake, um, I just have to make sure that I fulfill on the Year of the Dragon Kickstarter. So that one launched kind of late in the year last year, and I've just had a lot of manufacturing issues.
Ah,
So the people that made this, they gave me a much higher quote than I was expecting. I guess because I chose a lot of colors and I feel like they probably just didn't want to do it. So they quoted real high. But
oh,
I'm like, I'm not gonna like, I raised a certain amount expecting to pay a certain amount. So I would lose money on it. It was like 25% more expensive. Um, so I went and approached another company, and there it took like 2 months, maybe even 2.5 months to get a sample in hand to look at. Um, and then the holidays started to come around. So I panicked, and there was like an issue with how it was cut, so it wasn't quite right. And I was afraid that, well, that's going to take another 2 months. Like
yeah.
I'm already a month late on fulfilling my Kickstarter. It's about to be the holidays. I want to get everybody their stuff in case like they were intended as Christmas gifts or something.
Yeah.
Um, so I panic ordered through the previous company, even though it was more expensive. And the t-shirts came out great, but the sweaters, all of the ink on like the sleeve print was cracked. I checked all 5 boxes
Oh
of
my
sweaters,
God.
and it just it looked like it was already flaking off from washing too much.
I think they would have noticed
So
just packing it, but they're like, it's fine.
I feel like you would have noticed printing it. Like
Mhm.
it's just like, man. And that was after I had asked them repeatedly and been assured repeatedly, like, is this going to affect quality because it's a different process than what I normally did? And they're like, well, it's going to be even better because it's going to be more vibrant and like
Yeah, pushing the sale.
it just wasn't true. So
Sucks.
um so we were gonna just reprint another design, but because they weren't gonna be ready by Katsukan, that's a ton of sales lost because I don't have the apparel that like appeals to the wearable art market. Like a benefit of having a lot of different things is you can appeal to a lot of different types of shoppers. Like some people are looking for journals, some people are looking for functional art. Like they don't have wall space left, but everybody's clothes breaks down, even though it's way more expensive to invest in apparel.
Yeah.
Um, it's also very satisfying to like walk around a show and like somebody comes back from the previous year and they're wearing your stuff. It's like warms up your tummy. Great.
Should try my flower dragons. I think that might work for a shirt.
Ooh, yeah, that would be cool.
Oh,
Ooh.
yeah, well,
Oh,
I have to
yeah.
try some apparel things. I'll be hitting you up for some retailers. Well, once you have one that you would tell me to use.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason that the first one took so long is because we were doing cut to sew, which yields a much higher quality. So like I could choose the fabric I wanted, I could choose the exact measurements, but that also just like it's also more complicated because you have so much customization. I basically use the same measurements as my snake sweater, but I think I was not good at measuring things, which is why the sample came back a little wrong. Um, but we've since made corrections, and I went back and ordered with them since our golden sample was done. And the print quality came out so much better. I don't have it on hand. But like in addition to, the first company having the cracked ink, like the front print was okay, but it also came out looking like a print on demand t-shirt that you order for like your family reunion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it was really thin. It looked like you could see the color of the fabric, the black fabric behind it. It was a little disappointing,
And you can't
if I'm
expect fans
honest.
to like pay money for a cool art shirt when it's,
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I don't know, I just can't in good conscience like sell somebody something that I wouldn't buy myself.
and it doesn't look good for
Like,
your brand either to put out something
hmm
so low quality.
yeah. Yeah, because then people question, well, it's got the price tag of something that like a single person produced and designed, but is it worth that if it's just cracking right away?
Yeah.
Like it's not worth investing in that.
Were you able to just pack them all up and get a full refund? Because it's not a cheap thing.
I'm That's what they're saying. I packed them up and shipped them back right before Katsucon, which I think was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So they have the sweaters still now. And they said they would give me a refund. I have yet to see the refund yet, but I'm hoping that it'll come through because since I ordered two sets of the
Yeah.
sweaters and a set of the tees, I'm like, I need that money back.
I can imagine.
Um, yeah, I mean, thankfully, Katsucon ended up being a good show. It was pretty decent given the circumstances of, like food brain happening.
Yeah.
Um, but if we had not opened, I would I we would have needed that money to survive this month. Um,
Scary.
yeah,
You
yeah.
mentioned that you have a gallery, and I've driven past it, but I haven't been in there yet. So
Mm.
is it just like a big showplace of your artwork? Do you show other artists? Tell me about your gallery space.
Well, right now it's just kind of my art, and then there's a section for my husband to do tattoos because he's a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
Um, I think when we first rented the space, we wanted it to become a gallery, and then after COVID lockdown was released, I started applying to shows also, and that ended up being a more profitable avenue to pursue, I guess. Like it yielded much more sales than I ever did at the gallery. So right now it's kind of like a more like a studio where I'll work sometimes.
And you'd feel kind of vulnerable in there working with those big windows. Do you have like drapes or anything you can pull so they
I
don't keep
have some window shades. I leave them open so people can see the art,
for sure?
uh, which maybe I should just use a backdrop or something to put
Maybe
the
one
art
of
in
your
front of the windows
yeah,
and then have
blankets
privacy.
or something. So then it's your art, but it's also, hey, you can't see
Yeah,
them.
then nobody's like watching me pick my nose randomly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Save that for the
um,
podcast.
yeah, yeah,
Isn't it classy?
yeah, keeping it classy.
So
Yeah.
having a husband that's also an artist, is there ever any conflict with having two artists in the same household? See, my husband's a graphic designer and
Mm,
also an artist. So it's like
mm,
our genres are different enough of what we do. It's not a problem, but I've heard of other people having issues, it's like as far as
hmm.
asking advice and critiques and things. How is that dynamic between you two?
Um, it's interesting. Well, we also just have such a different way of like visualizing things. Like a lot of let me see. Like when I make a rough sketch, it does not look anything like it's just a line drawing. It like looks nothing like how I plan on drawing it. And I'm not good at doing value sketches and I'm not good at thumbnailing either. So
Yeah.
like sometimes I'll ask Kyle like what do you think about where this piece is going? And I show him this like really rough drawing that has no values and no depth, and it's just like, and half the time it looks way worse than this. Like this one actually looks pretty clean compared to half of the sketches I'll have, like for my transfer sketches.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, that looks interesting. And I'm like, just pretend that this turns into like a finished version. What do you think? And he's like, I don't know. I can't visualize that far into your process. It's like, and I have trouble visualizing it unless I'm doing it,
Yeah.
like adding the small layers slowly over time, all in the same spot. Like,
So do you not
I don't
picture,
know.
do you play it, or sorry, plan it out in your brain, like the light and dark situation, or does that just happens organically? So you're not like picturing, okay, I've got this, I'm going to balance it with this down here before you even start
I I
slides.
can like I can envision it as if I'm not wearing my glasses. Like
Okay.
everything's super blurry and it doesn't make any sense. Um, like I can kind of visualize the values, but like I don't know, every time I do a value sketch or a tonal sketch, it's like this looks like garbage. This looks terrible. Nobody's gonna want this. So I kind of just gave up unless I have to for a client. Um, 'Cause I don't know. I don't understand how my brain works.
No, I just think it's fascinating to hear like how you picture it. And I totally get like my Mother Nature's March and some of my more like yeah, pencil pieces and stuff.
Mm,
I got kind of a basic idea and I just get into it and just start drawing. And, and
hmm
then as it goes, I know, oh, I need to darken it here, or I need to bring this up here. And then that's just
hmm
how it happens. So is that kind
hmm
of like what you're vibing with?
Yeah, yeah, it's very like intuitive and like if I see tangents or problems with this being next to this or this not being dark enough, this being too light or whatever, then I'll fix it as I see them coming, I guess. Yeah.
Now, your work reminds me a lot of Von Art. And because
Mm,
you guys both do just beautifully detailed black and white pieces, and you do the gold leaf and the fine line. And I love seeing artists like you and like him and like Alan Williams and all this succeed doing the black and white because I felt like early on I kind of got the vibe from just, I don't know, online art community that pencils, you okay, baby? Did you hear my dog? Anyway,
no, I didn't.
she's got a toe thing. Anyway, she's fine.
Oh.
Um, but I felt like I kind of got the vibe early on that like black and white was like that's your pencils and then you move to a painting. Like it wasn't treated like that was
Mm,
the final
hmm
piece. But I always loved drawings. Like I loved Donato's piece. We talked about that. Yeah, and Alan Williams and all these
hmm
different Alan Lee. I loved his stuff, Lord of the Rings
mm,
drawings.
hmm
And did you ever get any kind of pressure to be like, okay, well, you need color?
I feel that way sometimes. I used to get more comments about that when I was like just starting out at conventions. Um, Now I don't get it as much, I think, because now I feel like I look more confident and like my setup is more established. Like there was once a guy who came up to me at a show and was like, "Did you make all these in art class?" I'm like,
Ah,
why would you say that? Um, he was very mean. Um, but
it's
and
funny how
I'll
we
get
can have with those
people's
people.
hmm yeah. Um, I think he was just insecure.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was going through a thing. But I'll get sometimes somebody will be like, "Hey, can I get this in color as a print?" I'm like, "No, because I'm not, unless you want to pay for a custom price,
There you go.
because that'll take a long time." But I don't know. I do still feel pressure for that sometimes. Like um I'll think about my dream clients, like Magic the Gathering
No.
and Dragonsteel, like Brandon Sanderson's thing. Um, and book covers are like a thing. Sorry, my AirPod just died. Hopefully this doesn't.
I can still hear you. Can you hear me?
I think it's back on. Can you hear me again?
I can hear you just fine. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, my AirPod died, so I needed to swap it. Um, but I think sometimes that could be a barrier for client work. Like it's all monochrome, and then also I don't do backgrounds very often. So I feel like there's kind of a limit to how versatile my work could be in like a client situation, I guess.
Yeah,
But
it's rough because you can either build your portfolio based on the client work that you want, but
mhm,
as like what I would do for clients is totally different than what I do as my personal art because I feel like my personal art, I don't know, takes more time or all that kind I don't know. It's just it's more me, it's more all of this out there versus what I do for clients is completely different. I often do digital and cartoon work and all that kind of stuff. So it is
mhm,
hard to like, but you want to put what you're out there, what you're putting into the world to be cohesive and your look. And so
mhm.
I feel you on that. Have you ever thought about just doing some work just to try to get magic work?
I have, there's a few pieces that I really wanted to do um, that felt like they could be very magic-y. Um, I was backed up with client projects, and then I did like 16 shows last year, which I think was
Wow.
too many. But this year I'm doing a little less, so I'm hoping to come out with like more personal work. Like I actually haven't made a personal piece that wasn't commissioned by somebody in like a year and a half. So I'm really excited
Yeah.
that, I mean, technically this elephant is also commissioned. But I'm really excited this year to like make some new work that's like for
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
and that I get to just enjoy and play with and like, yeah.
I feel you. I have a couple personal pieces that are just aching, bless you,
Mhm.
to get out, but I keep putting pieces in front of it that I feel like might make more money. Like I want to get a couple more
Mm,
like flower dragons done before Gen Con and stuff
mhm,
that I think already has like its people. But I'm just
mhm.
dying to get like the personal pieces out of here, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard because like logically it's like, oh, client work and like stuff that I think will be popular are gonna be popular. But there's also like sometimes your personal work, like the ones that are just for you, really resonate with people. Like I always thought like trying to be a professional artist that I had to make like basically stuff that already existed. Like I have to be like James Jean. I have to be like Tron Nguyen. I have to be like Bon Art, who's awesome by the way. So is Tron. I don't know James Jean. I wish I did. He's awesome too. Um, but I don't know. That's like one of the coolest things that happened at conventions is like I connected with people that wanted to connect over the same thing. Like they're like, oh, I love Nautilus. I love moray eels. I'm like, yes, let's nerd it together. And then they would buy stuff. And it's like, wow, your people will find you if you're like really passionate and you put a lot of hard work into it and you're, you know, striving to improve your method and your skill. Um, like intently, but still like doing it in a way where you're pouring it into something you love and enjoy, and it's like not a chore to come work on it, which I mean, a lot of times it is a chore, but like once you get into it, it's like your people find you and you're I don't know, the stuff that you're into, there are other people that are into it too, and they come find you and then you like nerd out together. If that makes any sense. I think
Oh
I
yeah.
just rambled a lot just then.
No, one of the best lessons I ever got in school is just like well, I had one of those professors too that, everything had to be very highbrow. And he always would say, that my work was very illustration style. And he didn't mean it as a compliment.
Hmm.
But one thing that I really learned from my illustrations class was just like, yeah, if you like it, somebody else is bound to like it too. So draw what
Hmm.
you love. Yeah, but my problem is I only have so much time that I can donate, to personal work with everything else
Mm,
going on.
that's
So it's that
true.
balance
That's
of
true.
do I do the personal art or do I do the stuff that I know that's going to sell at the or hope will sell at these conventions?
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah, it's tough.
it is.
Yeah, it's
But there
tough
are
because
ways.
as I was just being like, make the stuff that matters. Like, yeah, it's been a year and a half since I've actually made personal work, so who am I to talk?
No, but it's hard. But yeah, we do. We need to get that personal
So,
work out because I agree with you. Like the things
hmm
that I have made that I was like push that part of my brain out of the way that's trying to plan anything. And if I just make something organically, those pieces tend to, yeah, resonate with people. And they're the ones that people keep coming back for. I have old pieces that I feel like, you know, they're a little outdated as far as my skills have gotten so much better. But people
hmm
keep buying those because they're still drawn to the imagery. So
hmm
yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you also, the Fantasy Art Workshops Illustration Intensive. I had to
Mm,
read it because that's so long. I haven't
hmm
got to go yet, but how cool
hmm
it must have been that you went from somebody that was going to learn to you became one of the mentors last time, didn't you? Or did
Yeah, I was a guest artist. So they asked me to come after I attended 2 years ago. And then last year I was a guest artist. It was really cool. It was kind of scary, but it was really cool.
yeah.
Um, Thankfully, they didn't ask me to do a demo in front of Howard Lyon and Jeff Miracola and Aaron
Oh,
Miller and
yes.
Steve Prescott, and like
Probably throw.
the guest of our,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, and especially when it's like, oh, we're gonna do this like really in-depth, like Howard usually does a really cool like model shoot demo on like ISO and like just all the ways to take a good photograph with good exposure that I immediately forget everything because there are numbers involved.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
but and then then he'll do an oil painting demo and it's just like, wow. That's so cool. You're such a smart guy, and I'm just like drawing with these mechanical pencils. So I'm grateful I didn't have to do a demo. And I kind of just floated around and if people had questions, I would offer the advice that I could give them. Yeah, it was really cool. And speaking of Bowie is kind of the short way of saying it. Uh, at least that's what I have. That's what I call it. But Von Art is going to be there.
Oh, cool.
I told him about it last year when I was the guest artist, and he came and he had a blast, and now he's one of the guest artists too. So is Iris Compete. She's the guest of honor. And then Lauren Brown is also coming, and she is the guest of honor art director, since she works for Wizards of the Coast. So it's really cool.
That,
Um, I'm super excited for the lineup this year.
yeah. So you're just
And
gonna
then
go.
yeah, I'm just gonna attend and have fun and
That
draw
will.
stuff with drawing people.
Oh, sounds awesome. It's a little pricey for me this year, so
hmm
but maybe next year we'll see. Yeah, that's one I haven't
Yeah,
done yet. So it looks
yeah,
one
it's really
ques-
good.
one question to deviate, but I totally forgot to ask you earlier. Do you have any tips on pricing? Like how do you figure out how to price your pieces?
Mm, it's hard. I know at the beginning I was very low with pricing, and then I started climbing when um people would buy them up. Uh, it's kind of like trying to find a balance between like how much am I okay with giving this away for? Like if somebody buys a piece and I'm like, I wish that I didn't price it that way, then I know that I should raise prices. Like if I feel sad and I don't feel like it was worth that, and I feel hurt that
Yeah.
I gave part of myself away for that amount of money, then sometimes I'll raise prices. And sometimes I might go too high. I think the weird part about my originals right now is that they're all from my food client. So half of them are like shellfish, like random bivalves, like cockles and razor clams that like no one has heard of and nobody cares about unless you're into like food. Um,
Forgot about those. You had a bunch of those at like Indiana Comic Con or one of those, did you? They're really neat.
yeah, they're neat, but like, who wants to hang a picture of clams and mussels? Like, unless you're like you have an emotional connection to shellfish, like growing up eating that or growing up in that, like close to where they live in the wild and are a nature person too, because like it's very niche.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. But I mean, my personal work, I feel like that sells reasonably well. And I don't know, it's hard because sometimes I have been gutted by selling a piece
same.
too quickly, and it's like, shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Like,
I got a real lesson year before last at Gen Con, and Jacob Walker was the one that pointed it out because I
mm,
priced a Gandalf drawing that I did that I was really proud of the way the smoke came up and everything. I was
I love that one.
thanks, and it sold right away. And I know I priced it too cheap, and Jacob was just like, "Well, you got some money and a lesson." So I was like, "Yep,
Mm-hmm.
I sure did." So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm definitely going to
Yeah.
relook at things and prices before I go to this Gen Con with my originals.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like that, the release piece, the one that started everything, I thought I had priced it at an LuxCon so high that no one was going to buy it. And somebody did. And
Oh,
I mean, I was happy. That was like the highest amount of money I've gotten for an original at the time. But like, I also kind of broke my own heart there.
oh yeah, because it was so
Because it's
personal.
like, yeah, it was so personal. It was like, this is how I got out of, the,
It was your start, really.
yeah, this is how everything started and how I overcame the bad feelings of
Well,
postpartum depression or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
I guess at least, you still have the prints and that it is kind of like a full circle thing because like if it is to kind of signify you getting into the art world, that is what we want for the our final pieces is to
Hmm.
maybe it means something special to them. I don't know.
Maybe. I hope so.
And well, in your
Apparent,
world, oh, go ahead.
oh, apparently it lives in a temperature controlled vault.
Oh,
That's
well,
what they
dang,
told me.
that's
Yeah. But
bougie,
yeah, I mean, I hope my eels are happy.
I guess.
And I
They're
hope Gandalf is happy.
new. He's living up in Northern California. That's all I know.
Mm,
Yeah,
I mean, that sounds nice.
he's doing pretty good.
Hmm.
I do want either like I come to your studio or you come to mine. You mentioned that you might give me a little tutorial in gold leafing because I am
Oh yeah.
fascinated with that. It looks so
Hmm.
sharp, but I'm a little intimidated by it. So
Mm.
to play. I think that would be fun.
Um, yeah, I think that would be really fun. Yeah, I think it's like scarier than you think it will be. Like um, I'm always kind of dreading starting it, but then once I'm done with it, I'm like, I'm so glad I did this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think it's hard because like the gold leaf, it's like metal leaf adhesive. I just have it here. Um, it goes on almost like Elmer's glue, it looks like. It's like white and opaque. And then it dries into a transparent, almost rubber cement type of thing.
Okay.
And then when it's like dry and tacky, that's when you put the foil on. And then it's magic at that point. But
And
the
then it
hard
holds
part
it
is,
forever.
hmm,
Does it hold it then forever then, or does it stay kind of like it needs to be behind glass to keep it from coming off?
I would keep it behind something because if you brush it really hard, it'll rub off.
Okay.
At least um, in the way that I apply it, I suppose. Like sometimes I'll do a really, really thin layer, um, and use like gold dust instead of just metal leaf. So that kind of creates a lot of edges that can come off easily if you press really hard with something or like you scratch it at it. Um, I mean, it's kind of like if you have like just one area of acrylic paint that's kind of thick. Like if you
Right.
scratch at it or hit it real hard, it'll come
Yeah.
off. Um, because it doesn't like soak into the paper like ink does.
Sure.
Um, but yeah,
Now,
yeah, it's fun.
whenever, yeah, whenever you worked, what do you listen to? Are you a podcast,
Mm,
music, audiobooks? What's your jam?
I do audiobooks mostly. I'll go through like 1 to 2 books a week if they're like regular length novels. Sometimes I also listen to anime that I've watched before.
Cool.
Like normally I like subs because I'm a brat, but I'll watch the dubs
I
when I'm
don't know what
working.
that, I don't know what those
Oh,
words are.
subtitles,
Oh,
subtitles.
okay.
So I'll listen to the original Japanese when I'm watching it, like with my husband. That's one of our end of the day relax rituals is we watch anime together in subtitles. And then I will shamefully watch English dubs when I'm working so that I don't have to look at the screen it's something I've already seen before, so it's easy.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's kind of known among the community of anime watching nerds that like the English voice actors aren't always as good as the Japanese ones. Especially since like the creators of the shows are usually involved in choosing the Japanese voice actor.
Yeah.
Plus, I really like the sound of the Japanese language. It's really fun. Um, but
Well,
yeah.
it just makes me think of like Squid Games because
Hmm.
yeah, I'll do the English so that I can do other stuff around the house, but it's so much better with the original actors doing it. It just
Hmm.
fits better. And I was just noticing,
Yeah.
what necklace are you wearing? This is not art related, but look,
Oh, it's backwards. It's just like, wait
it
a
looks like we might
second.
be wearing like the
Wait a
same
minute.
thing.
You have one of the snaky necklaces?
Oh
It feels
no, this is
or
solid, and then it's a thin chain back here. So
oh, okay.
from the look, I was like,
My
are we wearing the same thing?
It looks really similar on the video, but yeah, this one's like the really closely linked chain
Herringbone?
links that maybe I don't know much
No,
about
fishbone
jewelry,
or something. Anyway, yeah,
something like that. Yeah, but I saw it on Etsy and it was on sale, and I'm like, it looks like snake. It looks like a snake because it just like
yeah,
moves, and there's like
that's so
I
cool.
I just liked it a lot.
Etsy is just awful for me as far as financially because I just ordered something else. They have
Mm.
like labradorite and like different stones, scarab beetles, and it's two. They'll clip on each side
Ooh,
of the lapel. Then it has chains that connect. It's like
oh,
fine,
cute.
take my money. So hopefully that'll come before my next podcast thing.
Yeah. Ooh, I want to see that. That sounds really cute. Yeah.
Oh, what's your con schedule looking like?
Mm. This year I don't have as many, but I have like the next couple of months um scheduled out. Let's see. In next week, actually, I have Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle. Then it is C2E2 in Chicago. Then Anime Central in Chicago as well. And then I think I have a month off. No, then it's the Fantasy Art Illustration workshop, and then Fan Expo Denver in Denver, Colorado. So far, actually, that doesn't sound like I'm doing less.
Yeah,
It's
busy,
still
busy
kind of
life.
full, but yeah.
How old are your kids now? Are they cool with you like taking off and
They're
mama?
5 and 8 now, and they're accustomed to it. Like they don't cry anymore when I leave. But
Good.
they still make it very clear that they don't want me to leave.
Yeah.
And I feel really sad. But
All right, you
they,
brought it up.
yeah, I always feel so guilty going off to shows. But I mean, I'm always home like whenever I don't have a show. So I'm doing stuff with them at night and like in the morning, I'll get them ready for school and do breakfast and I do a lot of home cooking and my youngest likes to help me out with that. Um,
And being an artist, you're working from home, so you're there a lot more than a
Hmm.
lot of, the women that have to go into the office each day. So,
Hmm. Yeah, I'm grateful that I don't have to go into an office. And like when I go to the gallery, it's usually when they're at school and then I come back.
sure.
I can spend time with them.
Well, for anybody who's wanting to see your work, what are your socials? What's your website?
Hmm.
I can share.
My website is just ShawnERussell.com. If you Google Shawn E. Russell, that will usually take you to the things. My Instagram is also just Shawn E. Russell. How many times can I say that? Um, and like pretty much any of my handles start with that. Sometimes they have art at the end. I know Twitter X is just RT because there wasn't enough letters for the A in art, but I'm not using that one as much. I feel like there's a mass exodus on that.
I deleted
But
mine. I did a lot on there
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, I never was good at Twitter. So, I do have a Blue Sky now and a Kara and like, the things I do have a goal of this year getting better at being present on social media because last year I just posted when I had a con. I would do a photo of the booth if I remembered. Like, I think I only posted a photo of my Gen Con booth on the very last day of Gen Con, which I think is foolish, but
I feel like I'm terrible at social media. I do it occasionally, Facebook more than anything, but that's just kind of like my personal social media. But I have four
mm,
people on a mailing list that maybe hear from me once a year, if that. So,
hmm
and
yeah.
yeah, and you mentioned just like, and these poor people are like actually trusting you enough to give you their email address. I'm not even in use,
And
but they know.
we're like, hey, sign up for my monthly email newsletter. And I'm like, sorry, I lied to you. You were expecting art, and I'm not giving you anything. Yeah, I think my biggest problem is it just gives me a lot of anxiety. Like, I don't even sign into Facebook very often, even though people that I care about have a lot more updates on there. I'm just like, I feel like I need to interact with everything that anybody I care about
Hmm.
does. And that if I interact with somebody's thing and I don't interact with somebody else's, that other person's gonna be like, well, why didn't you comment on mine? And which is totally irrational, and like stupid, but it gets in my head and then I just don't sign in at all.
Oh man. But even just that doing the social media for art, it's one more thing. And it's just
Hmm.
pressure when you're already like, I have all these things I have to prioritize that can sometimes fall down the list because you're like, well, I need to make art. I need to feed my family. I need to, run
Hmm.
errands, but we'll get better
Yeah,
at it this year.
we'll get better at it.
Do
Yeah, I
you?
want to check out like schedulers and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You
Yeah,
said you wanted to, yeah.
anything to make it easier. Do you
Hmm.
have any tips for young artists? I like to ask people that when I interview them.
Mm, I feel like make what you're passionate about. I mean, I talked about that a little bit before, but it's like it will yield results if your skill is growing and you're able to like really fine tune the way that your voice and um your interests like meld together. Um, like my biggest client is a luxury food dealer, and they just found me on Instagram. Like I didn't approach them at all. They approached me, and it's like the owner of the company that talks to me about it instead of like, an art director. Well, I don't think they have an art director, but it's I don't know. It's like people will find you if you do the things. And I haven't gotten any dream clients that way, so it's not gonna make all your dreams come true. Like, and I think it's probably worthwhile to develop better social skills than I had, like being able to email an art director and be like, hey, I exist and keep me in
Yeah.
mind for future projects, and I'd love to work with y'all. I haven't cold emailed. Actually, I did it for the first time a couple weeks ago because my friend Ashley Lovett told me that I had to, or else. Um, in
It
like, the kindest way, because she's wonderful.
Well, 'cause, I'm an art director as well. So
Mm,
I had a couple people message me this week that their
mm,
style and their level of quality and everything was actually to part to what I would look for to do some of our covers. And I would have never known about them, because they're not in my circle. I don't follow them on social media. So, but by them
mm.
just randomly emailing me, now they're in my Rolodex. So it does work. Yeah.
Well, hello, art director Susan
Oh,
Shortage.
still get a
I
ton
actually
of,
forgot about that. I
huh.
think I remember you mentioning it at dinner like years ago or something, or
Well,
maybe it was last Christmas
I don't
when we
talk
all
about
got
it a
together.
ton because I want, I'm Art Susan, but also like talking to you guys, like I don't want it to seem like with other companies, like a lot of the authors that come in already have artists that work with them. They already have the art established.
Mm,
So I don't
mm,
get a lot of opportunities to actually hire. Although this past year
hmm
I was able to, I hired Michael Blank, loved his work. He did
Oh,
great, fantastic pieces for a book series that we did. And I hired Joe Slusher. I
hmm
never pronounced that right. But he's awesome, as you know, and he did
hmm
amazing work too. And it looks like we might be getting more um, kind of clients and book series that I can hire artwork for. So it's kind of exciting. And so I've got your name on my list too. It has to match up with the style of the book,
hmm For sure.
part of
For
it.
sure. Yeah.
Well, I just
That's
have,
so cool though.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're good. I just have one more question, and it's the most important question of the entire day.
Mm,
Um,
hmm
what's your favorite breakfast cereal?
mm. Well, I so like my favorite just to eat with no guilt is Reese's peanut butter puffs.
Oh,
But my favorite, like, I feel okay eating this every day is Raisin Bran, except I don't like raisins, so I'll pick them out. And usually my youngest will come and she'll like reach out and grab them and she'll munch on them as I pull them out, which is the most fun
well, it's good that you have
breakfasty interaction.
picturing you having all these like Ziploc tubs of just rejected raisins just like, in a cupboard somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes she doesn't eat them right away, and then I'll put them in her lunch because she loves raisins. I think she's the only one in our family who likes raisins, which is great because there's somewhere that they can go
Works.
and it'll be
I'm sorry, I
okay.
just got a real weird version of one of your drawings where one thing feeds the other, and but it's you with your raisins giving them. Anyway. Oh my gosh, full circle
That'd
moment.
be fun.
All right, my dear. Well, best of luck at Emerald City, and that's coming up. That's going to be amazing. And unless you
Thank
have any
you.
last thoughts, I think we're good.
Well, you asked me what my favorite cereal was, so it's only fair. What is your favorite cereal?
Oh gosh, it depends on the day. Um,
Mm,
when I was a kid, I really loved. They had like the fruity Rice Krispies. They had little pastel
mm,
colored marshmallows, and they were amazing. Um,
mm,
But my favorite guilty would be Captain Crunch with Crunch Berries. Even though
mm-hmm.
it cuts your mouth up like glass, it is freaking
You
delicious.
got to soak it a little bit.
You have to pre-soak it. And I don't know if it's just the 80s girl in me or what, but I'm not hating on a nice bowl of grape nuts now and again. You need a pound of sugar,
Mm,
but that's some good.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh man, you reminded me of Trix cereal,
Oh
which
yeah.
was like so good when I was a kid. That was highlights. Yeah.
Oh, and the monster cereals. My husband,
Yes.
Halloween, when those come out, yes, the Frankenberry and all those. It's like I'm always
Mm-hmm.
trying to watch, sugar and all that stupid stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
you gotta have some Frankenberry when it's here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's seasonal. It's like the pumpkin spice latte, but breakfast.
Or the McRib if you don't hate yourself so much. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, well, I can't thank you enough for doing this. You are delightful, fantastic, beautiful, talented, and I'm so glad you came on the show. My
Thank you for
precious Mary.
having me, Susan. All those things right back at you.
Oh, thank you. All right, my dear. Well, you have a fantastic rest of your day, and we will talk soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.